So after a number of ambitious trips spanning multi-cities right across Europe, we've reached season 3 of the podcast. And this time we've decided to concentrate on one region of one country. Welcome to Italy. This is Travelcaster, the travel pod that takes you there. In this season, we'll be leaning into Pisa, taking a trip into Tuscany and lounging about on the Ligurian coast. And welcome first to East Midlands Airport. I normally prefer travelling by train when I can, or taking a boat, but sometimes planes are necessary. And regional airports like East Midlands offer a convenient way of getting to loads of different destinations, especially in Europe. Now, the flight to Pisa today is going to take around 2 hours. I've been getting through security here in about 15 minutes, which is really good going. They're nice and efficient here. And whilst perhaps this lacks the elegance of Heathrow Terminal 5 and doesn't quite have the grandeur of Dallas-Fort Worth's first-class lounge, it does have decent facilities airside, cafes, restaurants, shops, that kind of thing. It's not a massive airport experience, and it's not a massive airport, but hey, as I said at the start, it's convenient. Jasper Carrot once joked that East Midlands Airport was so behind the times that the planes here were launched by Bungie. It's not quite that primitive these days, but you won't get long-haul flights here to the States. Maybe the occasional one going to Florida in the summer months. East Midlands is not just known for its passenger business, it's one of the biggest freight terminals in the whole of Europe. So, having arrived at Pisa Airport, getting to the city is relatively easy compared to some other places. There are two ways of doing it. Basically, Pisa is divided by the River Arno. To the north of it is what we might call the new town, where all the posh shops are, and it leads up to the central station. If your accommodation is on the north side of the River Arno, take the Pisa Mover from the airport to Centrale Station. It'll take about 15 minutes and cost you about €5. It's a light rail system, and you can laugh away when you see the logo because the way it looks makes it look like it says Piss Mover rather than Pisa Mover. Anyway, if you're to the south of the River Arno, however, it may be better for you to get a bus or a cab. A cab here is going to come in at about €10. Bear in mind, though, that lots of Pisa is pedestrianised, particularly around the old town area, around the tower. So if you are getting a cab, it might drop you off a street away or so from where you're staying. And so here we are at the Ponte di Mezzo, the bridge that spans the River Arno right in the centre of Pisa. Now, for the centre of a big city, it may not actually seem that big, but it's an important link to get you from the new town in the north, where we're staying, to the old town in the south. And if we walk across it, there's traffic going either side. It's single file traffic, and it only goes in one direction on either side, so crossing the road is relatively easy here. And as we walk into the new town, as one of the many scooters flies by, we come to what is today the Piazza Garibaldi. But this has got loads of history, because in front of you will be this colonnaded building that looks absolutely ancient. And that's because it is. It used to be a monastery, but a helpful plaque here tells us that this was actually the Torre del Casino dei Nobili, the Casino of the Nobles, built in the mid-18th century for the delight of the aristocracy. Yeah, it used to be a monastery, but the monks sold the land, and they built this rather opulent palace on top of it. Now, all kinds of fun and games and dirty things used to go on here. Today, the games have finished, but it's still an important part for entertainment. There's a nice bar so you can get your drinks. There's a pizzeria where you can get, yes, your pizza. And next to it, one of the best gelato stores in town, La Bottega del Gelato, dal 1982. Yeah, only goes back to the 1980s, but by lunchtime the queues around here are going to be so long you'll realise what all the fuss is about. It's absolutely delicious. Now, if the delights of the pizza Garibaldi haven't filled your belly and you're in need of some more refreshment, I suggest do a left. Look to the left of the casino building and then take a sharp left around another restaurant and then a sharp right. It might look like you're going through the back of Beyond, and in a way you are, because here is one of the most interesting squares in Pisa. Not the prettiest, but one of the most interesting. The Piazza de Vattovegli. This translates to the Piazza of Pain. Not quite sure what pain went on here in the past, but it is an ancient square. This time of the day, in the middle of the morning, there's a rather nice little market selling touristy things like sun hats and shawls and fans, things that you will need on a hot summer day. And but surrounding it at the moment, well, they're all closed. A number of bars and restaurants. Come lunchtime, and especially into the evening, this place takes on an entirely different and much more vibrant character, which we'll find out about a bit later. Now, this may not be Milan, but there's plenty of shopping to be done in Pisa. Along the Borgo Stretto, you'll find some of the nicest looking shops in town beneath these wonderful colonnades. A great way to shade and get out of the sun in the heat of the day. There's clothing shops, there's perfume stores, there's little cafes, there's a pharmacy, there's even a second-hand bookshop. Perhaps not quite Milan, a bit more like Turin. Well, a tiny version of Turin. You're listening to Travelcaster, today from Pisa in Italy. For more tips of how to get here and what to do when you arrive, head to travelcaster.net, where you'll find all the details of what we've been up to. And don't forget to subscribe to this podcast on whatever platform you're listening. Now, once the shops start to peter out on Borgo, take a left and you may observe some rather unattractive recycling bins. But if you go beyond that, you'll come to here, the Piazza dei Cavalieri, standing in the heart of Pisa's student quarter. At the heart of it is the palazzo itself. It looks absolutely stunning, and it's got this great design on the outside whereby elaborate artwork was literally carved into the plaster while it was still wet, and it creates this magnificent effect on the exterior of the building. Now, over the years, this building has been all kinds of things. It was once Pisa's town hall. You can kind of see why that might be, but that was then led to destruction when the town fell to Florentine rule. Since then, though, it's restored itself and is now home to one of the most prestigious university colleges in the city. Next door is another building, which was once used as a jail. Some rather grim tales can be found if you go in there, and also a rather elaborate church building. From the University District, you're going to head northwest. In other words, go up and left a bit. And once the university buildings peter out, you'll start to see loads and loads of tourist stalls selling the tackiest of gifts. There are sun hats, there are mini leaning towers of Pisa, there are postcards, there are mugs. There are also horses and carriages waiting to take you around town. And as we come up to the main attraction itself, there are thousands and thousands of visitors. I came here in 2020 in between the COVID lockdowns, and it was just about bearable then, but here, well, it's a little bit overwhelming, I've got to say. But this is why you come here, right? The Leaning Tower of Pisa, standing in the Piazza del Duomo, next to the cathedral, the baptistry, and all kinds of wonderful buildings. Now, all of the buildings on this site actually lean. It's not just the tower, but the tower leans more than most. In fact, right at the top, it leans 17.5 feet, 5.4 metres from the vertical. The tower began construction in 1173, and it began to tip sideways before the third story was even finished. You'd think they'd have a look at that then and go, do you know what, this might not be a good idea. Now, more than 10 years of engineering interventions succeeded in stabilising the tower in 2008, and according to the engineers, it should be good for about 200 years. Okay, so here are the practicalities. If you're going to come to the Leaning Tower of Pisa, it is best to book your tickets online and to do it in advance. That's because the tower itself has specific time slots that you must stick to. And looking online this morning, Monday morning, I was online at 8 o'clock. There were no slots available until 6 o'clock this evening. That's how fast the tickets sell out. So if you're coming here on spec and you wanted to go up the tower, prepare to be maybe a tad disappointed. Now, a complete ticket, which includes the tower, the cathedral, the baptistry and a couple of museums as well, comes in at €27. But if you don't like heights or you just think the wait for the tower is too long, you can have all of the other attractions for just €11. The tickets are available online. Make sure you go to the official retailers though, because some of the other booking sites and the tour sites will charge you a bit more. So those numbers to remember at 2024 prices: €11 for the basic ticket, which gives you everything except the tower, €28 if you want the tower included. Actually, if you don't fancy queuing for the tower but want a bit of a view anyway, you can also visit the baptistry. It comes as part of that €11 ticket I was talking about, and for that price you get to go up the stairs of this building dating back to 1152. Now, if birth isn't your thing, maybe death is. This is the Compassato, where all the bodies are buried, and by the sounds of it, they're still being cut up. Only joking, they're doing some restoration work. But in this rather elongated, magnificent building that's open to the elements are wonderful 14th century frescoes. Intricate paintings depicting all kinds of scenes whose stories are told on helpful information boards all around. Yeah, they had to paint them all by hand, you know. There were no on-order frescoes from Tesco's in those days. As you'd expect for a major tourist attraction, everything here is planned down to the last detail. Once you've got that ticket, you can go into any of the attractions. At busy times you will have to queue. Here in the cathedral, for instance, at the moment, there's probably about 150 people. There was a bigger queue a bit earlier on, but it's died down a bit now. Nevertheless, it's very busy. Then again, it's the middle of July, and yet more crashing about. There's a heck of a lot of restoration to be done in a place like this. Well, it's coming up to midday and it's getting incredibly busy. Now, technically, entrance to Pisa Cathedral is free, but you do need to hold one of the tickets for one of the other attractions. If you really want to be saving money, you can buy a ticket, for instance, just for the baptistry. That's going to cost you €8. It'll get you into Cathedral as well. At busy times like this, though, you can expect lots of tour guides speaking many different languages and perhaps a queue as well. There are, of course, loads of other churches and cathedrals around Pisa and this region that you can see for free almost any time you want. Bear in mind, they might not always be open when you arrive, and if you're coming at mass times, well, they're not going to want you to take pictures and videos and things like that. And also bear in mind a little bit of etiquette. If you're wearing shorts, they should cover your knees. Your upper arms should be covered, and if you're wearing a hat, you should take it off. After all that sightseeing, religious nonsense and leaning stuff, it's time for some refreshments. All along the Via Santa Maria, you'll see dozens of restaurants all plying for your trade. They are much of a muchness, they're extremely touristy, and the prices are pretty much the same whichever one you pick. I opted though for the Bar Costa, not like the coffee chain. This one was established in 1921. It does a really good selection of simple sandwiches, delicious gelato and cooling drinks, alcoholic and non. It's to the left of the Grand Hotel Duomo, one of the few bigger tourist hotels in the city. Now, time for a Travelcaster tip for eating out in Italy. Unlike a lot of countries, tipping is not expected, but a service charge is often, if not usually, included. It'll normally say so on the menu, which means at the end of the meal, you won't be hit with any unexpected charges. That said, you may be offered things like water and bread, all of which may be added to your bill, of course, so bear that in mind. It's been a busy day exploring the sights of Pisa in Italy, and that's going to just about wrap it up for this episode of the podcast. In the next, we'll find out what Pisa has to offer by night. To find out exactly where we've been and what we've done when we've got here, head to travelcaster.net. And don't forget to subscribe to this podcast on whatever platform you're listening. And join us again soon for another edition of Travelcaster, the travel pod that takes you there.